The crunch is a real thing in a lot of creative industries, and most notable for us in the gaming industry. The term may not be that familiar to some of you, but it usually refers to a time just before a big video game releases where employees have to put in more hours to get a game or related content finished in time for release. It's important to note that not all companies or game studios work that way, and because I don't work, nor have I ever worked in a game studio, I don't have any first-hand experience of any crunch situations. That being said, I have had the pleasure of visiting many game studios over the years that I've been creating content on YouTube, and I've got a feel for how a lot of them operate as an outsider. Over the years, there have been reports of a lot of gaming studios overworking their employees with an expectation that they'll put in long hours to get work finished or risk losing their jobs or potentially limit their career opportunities. Again, these are all reports, and without first-hand experience, I can't really speak for those people. But there is no smoke without fire, and you have to accept that this sort of practice does exist in some video game studios. So why is this important? Why am I talking about it on a YouTube video? Well, let's rewind a little bit and talk about Fortnite for a second. In this case, I'm not sure that phenomenon is too grand a term when it comes to Fortnite, because ever since it released, it's been on this incredible hype train that's propelled it to being one of, and probably the biggest game in the world at the moment. Its success is one that a bunch of other games companies and studios have tried to emulate with varying successes. Games have come and been solid BR games nonetheless, but they've fallen off because they lacked what Fortnite was able to produce. Regular, fresh, interesting content, almost drip-fed every week or two. Fortnite has had regular updates, constantly adding in new limited time game modes, new features such as planes or buggies, new weapons or gadgets to play around with, and of course brand new cosmetic items including animal companions. Alongside that, they make regular changes to their map, usually teased for some time with fantastic marketing, and they always do an amazing job at keeping players engaged and informed. Just recently, they've done an entire crossover with the Avengers, linking in with the film. Players can jump in and play as Thanos, something that you could do some time ago for a limited period as well when Infinity War was out, but you can also pick up Hawkeye's bow, Iron Man's blasters, Captain America's shield, or even Thor's Stormbreaker. And if there's something that the younger audience could get behind, it's their favourite game featuring their favourite superheroes. It's a win-win scenario. The problem is, at what cost is all of this achieved? Well, it seems like quite a large one. A recent Polygon article has highlighted some real issues within Epic. Incredibly long working hours for employees that, while may not be mandatory, they are absolutely expected if you want to remain in the company. And this has led to a very stressful working environment. The Polygon article says that they've spoken to many sources from Epic who all remain nameless for obvious reasons. Some are current employees and others have since left the company. Of course, this is not first-hand information, but some of the Epic comments do lean towards its validity. An Epic spokesperson has said in an email interview that people are working very hard on Fortnite and other Epic efforts, and that extreme situations such as 100-hour work weeks are incredibly rare. And in those instances, we seek to immediately remedy them to avoid reoccurrence. Of course, that in itself means very little. So as consumers, the gamers, we want content all of the time. We want new weapons, new cosmetics, modes, maps, but I think unless you work in the gaming industry, you can't ever truly understand the amount of time it takes to put that sort of content together. Epic employees who are working 100 hours to get content finished for their player base are sacrificing their own lives and health, and in some cases their entire well-beings to achieve targets, and that's just not something that I would personally want, and it's something that the gaming industry definitely needs to address. It's often down to time and money, and as the article alludes to, it's about the top level executives wanting to keep Fortnite on top for as long as possible. Let's be clear though, they're not the only studio to have these sorts of claims made against them, and I imagine that it will be going on way more than we hear. Rockstar, for example, were recently hit with reports that they were overworking their employees as well, although some employees have disputed the claims. It's not all like this either though. I've been to a few studios in my time. One recent example is Criterion. Visited a few times to give feedback and play Firestorm, and I always felt like it was a really relaxed and chilled out environment, and the people who worked there have said that they don't do crunch, for want of a better term, and that's certainly a good thing. And speaking of which, one of the big Battle Royale launches recently has of course been Apex Legends, and Respawn have taken a different approach here than Epic. Respawn had decided that they were going to adopt a seasonal approach to content with Apex, and they're sticking to that despite the success of the game so far. And the Respawn CEO, Vince Zampella, did an interview recently with a gaming website called Gamasutra, and he said in that interview that our intention was to always be seasonal, so we're kind of staying with that. The thought was, hey, we kind of have something that's blowing up here. Do we want to start trying to drop more content? But I think you look at quality of life for the team, we don't want to overwork the team and drop the quality of the assets that we're putting out. We want to try and raise that. And that thought process is that even though the game has taken off, they don't want their employees to be overworked, and as such, just throw content out that is perhaps subpar. That's a good approach maybe, but Vince Zampella has also said that they're not set up to do weekly updates like Fortnite does, and to be honest, I'm not sure anyone is. But Apex also did recently say that they're taking people off Titanfall projects that are upcoming and moving them to Apex Legends. Will that mean more content more frequently, or just a better quality of content overall? We'll have to see. And I don't think that this is just a case of working overtime either. If an employee wants to work extra hours to get something finished, that's okay. I'm sure many of these devs work overtime and just finish their work off after hours because they're passionate about being creative and want to see what the finished product is. And I think that that's okay, providing it's not something that's silently expected by the company. And even worse, if your career prospects of job security are threatened if you don't play ball. It also has to be done in moderation too. Doing 100-hour weeks consistently is just not good for someone's health and or well-being, nor is the feeling that you can't take a day off, or you will not only ruin your prospects going forward, but you taking that day off is going to put more pressure on your colleagues and friends. It's a really slippery slope. Now, contractors seem to get hit pretty hard as well. If you're on a contract with a company, say for 3 to 6 months, there's of course a part of you that knows that you need to do what is required of you, or your contract won't be renewed. And the article also claims that contractors who declined to work longer hours were often swiftly replaced. An Epic spokesperson said that Epic makes contract renewal decisions based on the quality of work performed and willingness to work at times needed to meet critical release dates. Although, if we're being fair, they also claim that the average contractor overtime at Epic is less than 5 hours per week. Now, there are claims in the article here that some people have refused to work weekends, and as such a deadline for a piece of content was missed because their part of the package wasn't completed on time and no one else could do it, and as such that person was fired. Again, can I confirm that actually happened? No, I can't. We're of course taking this person at their word and believing it to be true, but the article does speak to multiple sources who do seem to confirm the same thing. But then they've spoke to someone that has said themselves that they've not personally fallen victim to the crunch, but even though they accept that others have, it's going on. So compared to 10 years ago, games today are substantially bigger. Way more content and constant updates after release, often to difficult timelines because of investors or marketing reasons. And when you're thinking about content for your favorite game, remember that people can't be expected to give up their own life enjoyment and health to provide it. Games are now not just a piece of software that releases and developers move on. Most multiplayer games are going live service, and the main product releases with an expectation that more content will follow. And in some regards, Epic perhaps just didn't plan well enough for the success of Fortnite. The same could be said for Apex too. Now, none of this is an excuse for what's going on, and I say again, this article has shed some potential light on the situation. Maybe it will encourage people who were too afraid to stand up and talk to come out and talk about it, but this is all that we can go on. And I'm sure there are employees that would claim this isn't as bad, and I'm sure that Epic would claim that too. We're not there, and I certainly cannot comment firsthand on what's going on, but this has crept up too many times in the gaming industry lately to be a coincidence. As I said, no smoke without fire. So wrapping things up, I go back to my question from earlier. Games are big money these days, the biggest entertainment industry in the world. Huge products with billions of dollars invested into them. We as a consumer want content, but at what cost is that content being delivered? And how can things change to make better working standards for the developers, producers, employees, everyone that's putting this entertainment together? And there it is, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, give it a like. If you didn't, a dislike. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.